history and film class. Okay, so let's get to it. The name of this film was called Hotel Rwanda, and the major characters in this film were Paul Rusesabagina, I think. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. That's the main guy. Paul Rusesabagina was the main character, and he was played by Don Cheadle. Don Cheadle was in the second Iron Man. He played War Machine. I love that guy. Okay, then there's Tatiana Rusesabagina, who was Paul's wife, who was played by Sophie Okonedo, and Colonel Oliver, played by Nick Nolte. The historical event that was portrayed in this movie was the Rwanda genocide that occurred in July of 1994. The whole film is basically centered around this guy named Paul and this hotel that he runs. It's during the genocide where a bunch of Tutsi are getting killed by the Hutu, because the Hutu and the Tutsi are the two groups that are in Rwanda that are separated by hatred and everything. So, if I remember correctly, because this film was pretty hard for me to follow, I didn't really understand it, but I'm going to do my best. But from what I gathered, Paul was a Hutu who was helping the Tutsi because his wife was Tutsi and his children were half Tutsi. So basically he ran the hotel and he was taking in the Tutsi to care for them and hide them and make sure that they were safe and that they didn't get killed by the Hutu rebels or the Hutu army or whoever was shooting everyone and hacking them to death with the machetes, which was absolutely terrible. A scene that I found interesting, well, not really interesting, kind of disturbing and kind of eye-opening to the audience, was when Paul was coming back to the hotel from going to get supplies to stock the hotel with, and the road starts to get bumpy and it's foggy outside, you can't really see the road, and they pull over and Paul gets out and there's bodies everywhere. It was so scary. I felt so bad. I don't understand how two groups of people that live in the same country can just decide like that, okay, I'm gonna go kill my neighbor now with this machete. I'm gonna go chop off my neighbor's head because he's different than me. Because if you think about it, the only difference between the Hutu and the Tutsi are that the Tutsi are more elegant, as it was put in one of the PowerPoints, I think. Because there was another scene that I found interesting where one of the American reporters was there asking, what's the difference between a Hutu and a Tutsi? And then he asked two girls, are you Hutu? Are you Tutsi? And one of the girls was Hutu and one of the girls was Tutsi, and he's like, I can't tell the difference. So, but from the PowerPoint, the Tutsi, if I remember correctly, sorry if this is wrong, the Tutsi were lighter skinned. They had thinner noses, and that they used to measure everyone's noses to make sure that they weren't Tutsi, and they were taller and more elegant, while the Hutu were shorter, I guess, and darker and had bigger noses. So that was really the only difference between the two groups that lived in Rwanda. I don't know if this was a good film or not. I'm kind of on the fence about this one because I'm not once again, because I said this in the last video I made, I'm not a big fan of historical movies. I'm a science fiction and fantasy person, and this movie was kind of depressing, so I think I will give it, for me, I'd give it a thumbs down, but if anyone were into historical movies, then I think they'd like this, because it's very eye-opening to what happened in other countries, because we didn't do anything about it. From what I gathered from the movie, we weren't involved. We didn't do anything about the killing that was happening in Rwanda, which is a shame, because we could have helped a lot of people. So, and my dad, I told my dad that I was watching this in class, and he told me that he had liked it. So, I'm gonna say, people that like historical movies, this is a good movie for you, but I myself think that I didn't like the movie very much. It was depressing. So that is my critique of Hotel Rwanda. Goodbye.